Like, I don't even think I've even hit even close to my potential yet. So I just think there's so much left in my tank, and that's what excites me.
Sophie Cunningham recently broke her silence, sharing thoughts on Caitlin Clark that have sparked widespread conversation.
When I got drafted, they're like, "Oh, what was like your signing bonus?" And I was like, "Signing bonus?" I was like, "We got a hat and a T-shirt that said WNBA draft." I'm like, "Oh, we got 10 million." I was like, "Well, welcome to the women's."
The Indiana Fever are already making waves, and Sophie Cunningham's recent comments have only added fuel to the fire. From playing behind legends in Phoenix to now teaming up with one of the most talked about rookies in WNBA history, Cunningham's transition has been nothing short of dramatic. But what exactly did she say about Caitlin Clark, and why is this new footage going viral? Let's dive into it. Sophie Cunningham, known as one of the toughest, no-nonsense players in the league, recently made bold remarks about Clark that are stirring up the WNBA world. If you haven't been paying attention yet, trust me, this is something you definitely don't want to miss. The internet is buzzing.
When it comes to who inspired me, I do think that it was my mom and my aunt, my grandma. They're just strong, powerful females who have made a huge impact on, raising other strong, powerful females in the world. And I think that was a huge inspiration. But honestly, there's just not a lot of people who are pros who were able to maybe give these girls here in the Midwest a platform. And so that's I had no one really to look up to when it came to professional basketball or professional sports here in the Midwest. And so I always just knew that I wanted to be that somebody. And so once I put my mind to something, I kind of do it. And so
anyone familiar with Sophie Cunningham knows she doesn't hold back. She speaks her mind, plays with a chip on her shoulder, and has that enforcer mentality. Loved by some, hated by others, depending on your team. But her recent comments about Caitlin Clark weren't trash talk or criticism. They were something much more intriguing and thoughtful.
Shooters in our league, and you see that we don't really have any. There's some, but there's not a lot of traditional post players anymore. Like, everyone can shoot. And if you can't shoot, it's weird that you can't shoot. And so I think you see, Diana Taurasi, she was able to shoot that ball from far out. Now you have Caitlin Clark shooting logo threes. And I just think, that's Steph Curry type stuff. Right? If the females can show that, then I don't know if it's going to be as exciting as a dunk. But we're also not done. Like, we know that. But man.
Before we dive into what Sophie Cunningham actually said, let's set the scene. Sophie just joined the Indiana Fever, a team already buzzing thanks to the arrival of one of the most talked about rookies in basketball history, Caitlin Clark. Let's be real, Caitlin has been the center of attention for a while now. From breaking records in college to bringing in insane viewership numbers to women's basketball, she's already considered a generational talent before even playing a single WNBA game. Now, what happens when you bring in a player like Sophie? A player who's been grinding in the league for years, waiting for her moment. Sophie spent her entire career in Phoenix, mostly behind the legendary Diana Taurasi, knowing that as long as DT was around, her minutes would be limited. Sophie was patient, but let's not get it twisted. She was hungry. Now, with the Fever, she finally has a shot to prove just how much of a problem she can be. So, when Sophie sat down for this interview, a lot of people expected her to talk about her journey, the move to Indiana, and what's next for her. And she did. But then came the part that really made headlines. When she was asked about Caitlin Clark, Sophie didn't give the usual response of, "She's a great player. I'm excited to play with her." No, Sophie went all in. She shared that she actually tried to recruit Caitlin Clark to Phoenix before the draft. Let that sink in for a moment. Sophie Cunningham was out here trying to bring Caitlin onto her squad, hoping to build something special in the desert. But of course, that didn't happen. Caitlin ended up with the Fever, and in a wild twist of fate, so did Sophie. Here's where it gets even more interesting. Sophie didn't just say she was excited to be playing with Caitlin. She took it a step further, and I quote, "I told the people upstairs, I'll be her Sabrina Carpenter if she's Taylor Swift." Pause right there. That's a statement for those who might not get the reference. Sabrina Carpenter has been closely associated with Taylor Swift, often performing as her opener during concerts and being seen as someone who perfectly complements Taylor's superstar presence. So what Sophie is saying here is simple. She knows Caitlin Clark is the headliner, the megastar, the one everyone's eyes will be on. And Sophie is completely fine with that. In fact, she's embracing it. She's ready to play the role of Caitlin's sharpshooting, battle-hardened sidekick. That's the part that really got people talking because Let's be honest, there are plenty of players in this league who wouldn't be comfortable taking that supporting role. There are veterans who might not love the idea of a rookie getting all the attention, all the camera time, all the headlines. But Sophie, she's here for it. This tells you a lot about the kind of player she is. She's not caught up in ego. She's not worried about being the face of the franchise. She just wants to win, and she believes Caitlin Clark is going to help her do just that. But Sophie didn't stop there. She went on to talk about what makes Caitlin such a special player, and how she plans to complement Caitlin's game. Sophie's embracing her role as the supporting player, but she's also eager to contribute in her own way. This isn't about trying to outshine Caitlin. It's about coming together to form something great, something that can take the Fever to the next level. Caitlin Clark is special, not just as a player, but as a person. Sophie Cunningham acknowledged the immense pressure Caitlin is under, the constant spotlight, the unrelenting expectations that would break most people. Yet, according to Sophie, Caitlin handles it with remarkable grace. That's a huge compliment, especially coming from someone who's experienced the highs and lows of the WNBA and has played alongside and against some of the league's best players. This wasn't just Sophie tossing out generic praise. No, she's telling everyone that Caitlin Clark isn't just hype. She's the real deal, and Sophie is ready to go into battle alongside her now. Let's take a step back and think about what this means for the Fever. Indiana was already shaping up to be one of the most intriguing teams heading into the season, but with Sophie Cunningham joining the mix, things just got even more exciting. If you've seen Sophie play, you know exactly what she brings to the table. She's tough, physical, fearless, and when it comes to three-point shooting, she's a serious threat. And here's where things get fun. You know who else is a problem from deep? Caitlin Clark. You see where I'm going with this, right? The Fever just became one of the most dangerous three-point shooting teams in the league. Caitlin can pull up from anywhere on the court, and Sophie has one of the deadliest catch-and-shoot strokes in the game. Add in Aaliyah Boston demanding attention in the paint and kicking the ball out to shooters when the defense collapses, and we're looking at a perfect storm forming in Indiana. But let's be real, though. Caitlin Clark is used to having the ball in her hands. She's used to being the primary playmaker, running the show. But the WNBA is a whole different beast. She's going to have to adjust, learn how to play with teammates who've been in the league for longer than her, and find ways to share the spotlight. That's where someone like Sophie Cunningham comes in. She's the kind of player who can make Caitlin's transition smoother. Sophie knows how to find her spots, how to space the floor, and how to knock down shots when Caitlin kicks the ball out to her. And here's the best part. They like each other. That chemistry matters. It's not just about talent. It's about trust. When Caitlin swings that extra pass, she needs to know that the player on the receiving end will knock down the shot. With Sophie, that confidence is already there. They've got a connection, and that's going to make them a deadly duo now. Let's revisit the viral moment, the Sabrina Carpenter to Caitlin's Taylor Swift line. Some people saw it as Sophie playing second fiddle, as if she was settling for a supporting role. But that's not what's happening here. Sophie understands the importance of roles within a team. She knows that championships aren't won by a single superstar. They're won by teams that work together, complement each other, and have no ego. Sophie isn't looking to outshine Caitlin Clark. She's looking to win. And if this Fever team plays their cards right, they might just shock a lot of people. What's crazy is that this is just the beginning. The season hasn't even started yet, and we're already seeing the team clicking behind the scenes. The respect, the excitement, and the potential are all there. If this is what they're saying now, imagine what's going to happen when they hit the court and start lighting teams up. Let's be clear. This isn't just hype. The numbers back it up. Sophie Cunningham is already one of the best shooters in the league, and Caitlin Clark is coming in with a reputation as one of the best shooters in history. Combine that with a team built to let them fire away from deep, and defenses better be ready. The Fever are setting up to be one of the most exciting teams in the league, and this is why Sophie Cunningham's comments are so important. It's not just a fun soundbite. It's the beginning of something big. Let's dive even deeper into this situation and what it means for the WNBA because, trust me, this Sophie Cunningham-Caitlin Clark connection is way bigger than one viral comment. We're talking about a potential game-changing shift in the league. If you think the Fever are just another rebuilding team, You're about to see things from a whole new perspective. Let's pick up right where we left off. Sophie Cunningham just made it crystal clear. She's not here to be the star. She's here to win. In a league where egos can clash and team chemistry can make or break a squad, that mindset is invaluable. Caitlin Clark is stepping into one of the biggest spotlights in WNBA history. Expectations are sky high. Everyone wants to see if she can live up to the hype, if she can dominate the pros the same way she did in college. But here's the thing. No rookie, no matter how talented, can do it alone. Enter Sophie Cunningham. Now let's talk about why this partnership is so perfect. On paper, it might seem like Caitlin Clark is the one bringing all the firepower to Indiana. But that's not the full story. Sophie isn't just some role player tagging along for the ride. She's a key piece to making sure Caitlin succeeds at the highest level. First off, let's talk about spacing. The WNBA is a different beast compared to college basketball. Defenses are smarter, quicker, and more sophisticated. Caitlin Clark will need teammates who can spread the floor, create shooting lanes, and keep defenders honest. Sophie Cunningham is one of those players. Her ability to stretch the floor and make shots from deep will keep defenders occupied, giving Caitlin more room to operate. This partnership between Sophie and Caitlin isn't just about individual talent. It's about complementing each other's skills and creating a team that works seamlessly together. Sophie knows exactly where she needs to be and when. She'll help Caitlin find her rhythm, and when the defense collapses on Caitlin, Sophie will be there to knock down the shot. That's what makes this duo so dangerous. Sophie Cunningham isn't here to play second fiddle. She's here to make sure Caitlin Clark has everything she needs to succeed, and together, they'll push the Fever towards something special. The road ahead is full of promise, and if the team can stay healthy and stay focused, we're about to witness a partnership that could reshape the future of the WNBA. The rotations are tighter, and the physicality is turned up to 100. Caitlin Clark isn't going to just waltz in and dominate the same way she did at Iowa, at least not without some serious adjustments. That's where Sophie Cunningham comes in. When you have multiple shooters on the floor, defenses have to respect them. They can't swarm Caitlin the way college teams did, because if they do, the ball's getting kicked out to Sophie, and she'll bury that three. Once teams start hesitating, leaving just a little more space for Caitlin to operate, that's when she really starts cooking. It's the classic Steph Curry effect. When you have elite shooters, defenses are forced to pick their poison. Leave Sophie open, and she'll make you pay. Stick too close to her, and now Caitlin has room to work. It's a nightmare scenario for defenders, and the Fever are going to take full advantage of it. But let's go beyond the X's and O's, because one of the biggest factors in a rookie's success isn't just talent, it's mentorship. While Sophie isn't exactly a 10-year veteran, she's been through the grind of the WNBA. She's played alongside legends, learned from the best, and knows what it takes to survive in this league. That experience is invaluable, and it's something Caitlin will need in her corner. And let's be real, Sophie isn't afraid of anybody. She plays with a chip on her shoulder and brings that enforcer mentality. With Caitlin stepping into a league where she already has a target on her back, having someone like Sophie on her team is a big deal. Caitlin Clark is coming in as the most hyped player in years, breaking viewership records, bringing more attention to the WNBA than ever before. You know what that means. Defenders are going to test her. She'll take hard fouls, get chirped at, and have nights where she's frustrated. But now Caitlin has Sophie in her corner. If you've ever seen Sophie play, you know she won't let anyone push her teammate around. Think of Draymond Green always having Steph Curry's back with the Warriors. That's what Sophie can be for Caitlin. She's the one who'll set the tone, bring the energy, and make sure no one disrespects their squad now. Here's where things get really interesting. Sophie didn't just talk about Caitlin in that interview. She also made some major points about the state of the WNBA and how things are changing. Sophie straight up said this new rookie class isn't just hype, it's a turning point. For years, the WNBA has had elite talent, but it never quite got the national spotlight. Players like Diana Taurasi, Sue Bird, Candace Parker, absolute legends, but they didn't have the massive media push Caitlin Clark is getting right now. Sophie isn't bitter about that. She's embracing it. She called out the people who act like Caitlin is the first great player in women's basketball. saying the talent has always been there. And she's right. But what's different now? People are actually watching. That's a game changer. With Caitlin Clark, Angel Reese, and the rest of this insane rookie class, more eyes are on the WNBA than ever before. And players like Sophie Cunningham know what that means. More opportunities, more money, and more respect. Sophie even pointed out that some players in the league might feel some type of way about Caitlin getting all this attention. Let's be real, that's true. There are players who've been grinding in the WNBA for years, never getting the same level of exposure. And suddenly this rookie comes in, and she's everywhere. But Sophie, she sees the bigger picture. She knows this isn't about one player. It's about lifting the entire league. That's why she's so excited to be a part of this. She doesn't see Caitlin as competition. She sees her as a catalyst. And when you have that kind of mindset on a team, that's when special things happen now. Let's talk expectations. After hearing Sophie talk, it's clear this Fever team isn't just here to compete. They're here to make a statement. Some people still see Indiana as a rebuilding team. But let's be honest, that narrative is dead. They've got a generational shooter in Caitlin Clark, a dominant post presence in Aaliyah Boston, and an experienced